Welcome into Boston has entered the chat. George Bleccia here, coming live from New Jersey. He's Ante Campbell joining me, my main man. Not only on Hold My Banner, on the chat as well. Ante holding it down back in Watertown inside the PNC studio. Hey, I know you're here. I know you're listening. I know you're watching, but make sure to please like, subscribe, rate, and review as well. Wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime, watching on YouTube, on Twitch, wherever it may be. Please, please, please help us out. It would help the show. It'll help out me and Ante. Tay, how we doing today? My first time doing the chat with you. I am fired up, bro.
I'm excited to do it with you too, GB. But look, I got to ask you, bro, how's the New Jersey weather treating you today, man? I've heard too much about those New Jersey summers.
Bro, it is all the rain we got last night in Boston, throughout New York and Jersey, cleared it up. 74, sunny, slight breeze, no humidity. Once we're done with this show, I'm hopping outside. I got to get my GTL on. You know how it goes.
Yo, I got to meet you out there at the beach one time, man. I got to see what those Jersey beaches are talking about, man.
Jersey Shore, even more beautiful than Santa Monica. That's what they always say. Blows Malibu away. Yeah. They say Jersey is a real LA beaches. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Sofia Jurkjevich, of course, of Nesson, of course, ringside pre- and post-game host for the Bruins and host Respect Her Game. She caught up with Bruins general manager Don Sweeney after that trade of Linus Ullmark. We'll play that later on. We also answer some fan questions. If you want to get involved in the chat, make sure to email us, thechat@nesson.com. And then with the Panthers winning the cup, we talk a little bit about who's going to be the next team to have a first. But first off, let's get through. We're halfway through Major League Baseball season.
Yeah.
All-Star break's right around the corner. Tay, what have you learned this year so far about Major League? Maybe something that surprised you, a player that had a breakout. What have you learned?
Look, I learned that you can't pay to have a great baseball team. As I went through the list of the teams with the top payroll, the top 10 teams, 6 of them, I'll list them: the Mets, the Astros, the Rangers, the Cubs, the Blue Jays, and the Giants, all in the top 10. The 6 teams there, all out of the playoffs as we speak today. So I figured out really quickly that money doesn't necessarily equate to wins in baseball this season.
What gets me there, though, the Rangers won the World Series, and they paid a hell of a lot to win that. And the Mets, I agree, got out of the gate stumbling. They've had the hottest month of June. I believe 15 wins so far this month. But I see what you're saying as well. But even look at some of the high payroll teams, the Padres, the Yankees. They're in the mix. Yankees are struggling. The one thing I've learned, Aaron Judge can do it again. The pace he's on right now, already at 30 home runs, hit his 30th Wednesday night, but he can get back to that pace, resetting the AL home run record. But with how bad the Yankees have been and how bad that lineup is, look, man, I'm doing this live from Jersey. Y'all know where my heart is. It's always going to be in Jersey, in the tri-state area. My fandom lies with the New York Yankees, but that stuff fades away the longer I'm in this industry. I know. But hear me out. I always do say, whatever city I'm in, I want to see them thrive. I want to see there be excitement. Never thought I'd say in a million years, but I do root for the Red Sox if they're not playing the Yankees. That's what happens. You get older, you get increased perspective. You want to see your friends thrive. The lovely community that embraces you in Boston, where I live in Charlestown, I want to see those people happy. I'll end it there, right?
Yeah.
But with these Yankees, it's the same thing in seasons past that I've seen. It's normally a two-man show. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Right now, it's Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Giancarlo hasn't been producing a ton at an extreme clip, but his injury has affected the lineup. Anthony Rizzo, his injury affecting the lineup. The rotation, of course, with Garrett Cole dealing with the elbow issue and still easing his way back in, he'll regress to the means. Rodon still doesn't know how to throw a baseball even after getting that big contract. This is a Yankees team that's going to have to buy, and push at the deadline, but they're going to have to get rid of guys like a Gleyber Torres. They're going to have to get rid of guys throughout that lineup. DJ LeMahieu looks lost. Alex Verdugo, that stellar first game against the Red Sox, slumping himself right now. And that's Alex Verdugo we got used to seeing here in Boston. So one thing I learned, nothing really changes in New York right now with the Yankees. Aaron Judge is great. That lineup, they just can't hit. It's not on management. It's on the players. But what about a biggest surprise for you, Tay? What's been surprising you about the MLB season so far?
Well, I have a couple, and it's funny that you brought up Aaron Judge because he's definitely a guy that I look to as a surprise. Coming in the May, he was batting a 197, George. That is awful for his career. He's been about a 280 guy his entire career with the Yankees. So it was the biggest slump that he's had so far in that jersey, in those stripes. So look, now he's up to 300 plus, and he's the first guy in the MLB to reach 30 home runs, which was a huge surprise. But the biggest surprise for me so far this year, you talk about your Yankees fandom, I'll talk about my LA Dodgers fandom, is the LA Dodgers pitching staff. I was not expecting their starters to deal as much as they've been dealing, especially because they've had a lot of injuries this year. Walker Buehler came back. He hasn't been what they expected him to be. We obviously know Tony Gonsolin, who's been huge for them, is out this year. Dustin May out again this year. Clayton Kershaw out to start the year. They expect him to come back later in the year and be successful for them. 3 guys who they've expected and had great success with, not having it for them this year. So what do? They do the Dodger thing, and they find guys who are just whatever, you know what I mean? And they figure it out. Yamamoto's not one of those guys. He was a guy that was supposedly highly touted, but people were nervous after that first game he had against the Padres, where he went out there and in the first inning he was pulled after giving up 5 runs in Seoul. That was really unexpected of him, and since then, he's bounced back. Another 2 guys that have really bounced back for this pitching staff is Stone and Paxton. Now, Paxton we saw here in Boston last year, and he was coming off of a Tommy John surgery, and he just really wasn't the same. His cutter was just missing. His velo was down. Not in Dodgerland. He's figured it out. He's at like a 3 ERA. And then the last guy is Stone. Stone was awful for the Dodgers as a rookie last year. Awful. Had a 9 ERA. That's just terrible. But this year, they've been trusting him more on the mound, giving him more starts, and now he's at 7 wins and 2 losses with a under 3 ERA, and he's been dealing. What did the Dodgers do to find these guys and figure it out? I don't know. They got to have the best pitching coaches in the world, but it's definitely a surprise because everybody was looking at that starting rotation to be the weakness of the Dodgers, and it's been very, very strong.
Man, the people listening right now are like, wait, this is Boston has entered the chat, and we're hearing Yankees and Dodgers talk. What's going on? I will say credit to you, bro. You admitted one name that no Red Sox fan wants to hear. So credit to that right there.
Yes, very, very true.
We don't mention Voldemort here. Hey, I'm going to follow that up with, I think, the biggest surprise for me, and I'll bring it back home. It's the Red Sox. For them to even be in a wild card spot right now is what no one expected. And just think of the injuries that they've dealt with. Trevor Story's not coming back this season. That's been a known thing, and that was tough to see happen. Vaughn Grissom, who they traded Chris Sale for, and they said, we're going to bring this guy in. He's going to be our starting second baseman. Dealt with a groin, dealt with a hamstring, still in the IL. I don't know if he'll ever be right this season. Tristan Casas, starting first baseman, 60-day IL, banged up, gone down, who knows. But the emergence, and you talked about pitching, Andrew Bailey as a pitching coach with Craig Breslow, a former pitcher for the Red Sox who won a World Series here, leading the way in that front office. What they have done with Tanner Houck is now the guy. A 2.18 ERA, sub-1 whip. Cutter Crawford is the guy as well. And they have both been phenomenal. With Garrett Whitlock going down, they extended Brian Bayo and gave him top 3 in the rotation money, and he's been anything but top 3 in the rotation. But as we see, as they start to delay his next start, that development is coming along to get him right. The pitching's holding it down. The offense is on fire. Jarren Duran is actually one of the best players in the league right now. This isn't some Boston propaganda to get him into the All-Star game. On the base path, with his bat, an everyday player, to go from a kid that we saw when he made his debut in Boston in 2021, messing with his hands, messing with his feet, his stance, every single game, not getting it right, confident shot, dealing with what he dealt with off the field. And he is a big proponent on caring for your mental health and coming through for that and ending the stigma that mental health and seeking out that help is bad for you. He's done all that while being the Red Sox best player, holding it down in the field. On the base paths, stealing bags at a ridiculous clip between him and Ceddanne Rafaela. The biggest surprise for me is this Red Sox team. Can they sustain it over 162? I want to see. Bullpen has held it down. Kenley Jansen has done what he needs to, given these leads, given these cushions, given what this team has done. But it is the top 2 pitchers for them and Houck and Cutter Crawford. And it is this lineup led by a bunch of young stars, but getting it done. Oh, and by the way, a guy I didn't mention, Rafael Devers still hitting dingers whenever you need him to. But it has been the young studs that have stepped up. Some guys you didn't expect to be a big role. Connor Wong, we've seen it. Smart catcher, great hitter, does whatever you want for a team. He very well could be moved from the catcher spot because Kyle Teal is vaulting through the minor league program for the Red Sox. And he's a guy that's buying in and says, I'll play wherever you need me to do. I don't care. I'll go there. This Red Sox team has been a huge surprise for me. And you see the way they've been playing over the last month. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. I might be off by that. 8 of the last 11. Yeah. But they have pushed down 6-2. We know the rally they had just a few nights ago. Mm-hmm. But then the response they have from getting blown out by the Blue Jays to responding to them the next day the way they do. Mm-hmm. This is a team that has it all in front of them. And for them to be in the final wild card spot as we're halfway through the season is massive for Boston, massive for the Red Sox. Alex Cora is getting a buy-in from his guys. These young players are having fun, continuing to grow. The defense needs to improve, sure. But they're listening to their manager. They're being led by one another. And this is the healthiest I've seen this clubhouse in a long time. Not literal health, but I mean health of the environment that they're in. They want to play for each other. There's no butting heads. You don't hear anything with issues, with personalities clashing for the Red Sox at Fenway. And I think this is massive for this team. For them to take this step forward, and you have these young guys like a Durant, like a Rafaela, right? Mm-hmm. They're learning how to win. When everything comes together, it could be this year, get into the playoffs and the wild card spot, great. But the long-term plan, we know who's coming up through the minors. When everything comes together, the Jaron Durants and the Rafaelas and the Tristan Casases, those are the leaders of the future of this team. And right now, they're learning how to win.
Yeah, and I think you forgot to mention just one more guy. I love Abreu as well. Abreu has been great over there and right. Now, before he entered the IL, he was batting a 270, and he had 22 extra base hits. And he has a 1.6 WAR. This dude has been a great young guy for this young Red Sox team, and he's going to continue to be for the future. There's no question about this Red Sox team. I love it so much. And I also wanted to bring this up because you brought up the 6-2 win. And it's my biggest moment of the year, honestly. Like, I love that win against the Blue Jays. And it's really because of Duran, which you talked about. And that moment, along with a moment that I'm going to talk about here in a second, is really just a testament to how much fun this Red Sox team has been to watch over the past couple of weeks. But going back to that moment, right? They're down 6-2 against the Blue Jays, who have been giving them trouble in the past, right? The Celtics are in the house celebrating the championship. So there's a lot of pressure on this young team to kind of not slide and be the team that they were last year, where they got hot around this time of the year and then they just kind of teetered off, right? And they go into the 8th inning, down 6-2. They get 2 home runs from 2 different guys. And then they come into the 9th, tied up 6-6. Duran is up to bat with Rafaela on second. And he gets a base hit, base knock, walk-off fashion with the Celtics in the building celebrating some more. A great Red Sox win. So I love that from Durant, but I also love that 2 days before that, right? Similar situation, close baseball game. They're up 1 in the bottom of the 9th on the road with the Cincinnati Reds. And Jansen needs help, right? Because Jansen is not really the strikeout guy that he used to be. He's more of a guy that's, throwing guys into ground balls and pop-ups nowadays, right? And that can be a little dangerous. So there was a ball getting ready to leave as they were up 4-3 with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. And what does Duran do? He scales back to that center field wall, reaches up, and just snags the souls of the Cincinnati Reds. So that was my favorite 2 moments of this entire baseball season so far, which is funny coming from the fact that we were talking about how we were talking about the Dodgers and the Yankees. But the Red Sox have my heart as far as my favorite moment from the season. What about you?
You know what that is, Tay, of you saying it's funny that's your favorite moment? My man, that's growth. You've been in this city for a good while now. You're growing up. You're really becoming an adult, right? And I know I'm not like talking like I'm 30 and you're like 22, bro. Like you're 2 years younger than me, right? But you feel me? Like that's what's happened. As a guy from Jersey, I lived in Missouri for a few years. All of a sudden I'm pulling for the teams in that area more. When I was in Wisconsin, Bucks, Packers, Brewers, Badgers, I still root for the Badgers to this day. It gave me an identity with college football because I'm not rooting for Rutgers, that's damn sure. Then you come to Boston, and it's the same thing, right? You're in it every day. You're talking about it. Obviously, that's where we work, being at Nesson. We talk about sports. We talk about the Sox a lot. But when you're out and about, when I was here in 2021, the palpable excitement of the Red Sox making that surprise run to the ALCS because they had to get in on the last day of the season and they progressed through the rest, right? Yep. That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes you love it. It's called growth, my man. It's called growth. My best moment, you hit it with the nail on the head, that 6-2 comeback. For me, I go out to Pittsburgh, Paul Skeens against Shohei Ohtani. First time he faces him, striking him out, 3 100-mile-per-hour plus fastballs, gets him swinging. Next at bat, Ohtani takes him yard. I think it's huge for baseball to have Paul Skeens ascend and continue to be that guy that he is. He's shown he could be a workhorse pitcher, I say to an extent. Let's see, he's a rookie. But he has that mental makeup where he wants the ball in his hands. We saw him at LSU. We know what he does. But to get a huge name like him in a pitcher and someone that pitches once every 4 or 5 games, and that becomes appointment television. When he goes to away ballparks, people will be buying tickets to go to a Paul Skeens start. It's the effect I had, man. I lived in LA for a summer, and I'll never forget. We were eyeing to go to a Dodgers game. I said, we have to wait for Clayton Kershaw to pitch. Did we roll into Dodger Stadium? Did he get a late scratch for a strained glute? I won't say yes or no, and it did break my heart. But that's what Paul Skeens is going to do. And then in Pittsburgh, they're all wearing mustaches. It's a big moment for baseball right now to have a pitcher that came through college, built his name up there, was on the biggest stage, and is now in a baseball and sports-rich city like Pittsburgh to dominate. And that's a team, again, they have O'Neal Cruz, they have Skeens, they have another good pitcher. They could sneak in to a wild card spot and get into the playoffs. That is what Major League Baseball wants. And you put that moment together of the biggest name in the world right now when it comes to athletes, not with soccer players. Shohei Ohtani, no name is bigger than him, is globally because of what he represents overseas, what he represents here, the anomaly that he is in a unicorn of pitching and hitting, and he's not even pitching this year. That Skeens moment against Ohtani to me is huge. What about any prediction? You got a prediction for us, second half of the season?
Well, it sounded like you were almost ready to make a hot take there, saying that the Pirates are going to make it to the playoffs and sneak into the wild card spot. But I got a huge prediction, and I think it's kind of big, seeing that this team's had a lot of success over the years. Dare I say dynasty. I don't think the Houston Astros are going to make the playoffs this year. That's a huge prediction that I have going into this season. I just think with the rest of the season, you look at the outlook, right? In the American League right now in the wild card, you have the Orioles, the Twins, and our Boston Red Sox, as you talked about a little bit earlier. But I think the Royals are going to continue to be right there. And the Astros, I really don't see them as a team that looks hungry right now when they're playing baseball. And that's kind of scary, seeing that we're 82 games, 80-ish games into the season for them. And then on top of that, I think the Rangers are a team that won. I think they're going to get to a point where they're like, hey, we were the best team in baseball last year. It's time for us to show everybody why we were the best baseball team last year. And they're going to make that late push and really make it tough for the Astros to see the playoffs this year. So that's my prediction going into the second half of this season, is that we're not going to see those boys in blue and orange.
All right. I like that. I was on the Allcast the other night, and we did a segment in the bottom of the fourth, and it was spin the wheel, whoever you land on, make a case for them to get in. I got the Astros. No Verlander, how banged up they are. It seems like they've hit that wall of all those ALCSs they've made it to. And I had to make the case. I go, it's Houston. I have to believe they can sneak into a wild card spot, but it's somewhat hard to see it happen right now because of everything you stated. That seems like a team that's burnt out, that's hit their wall. And if they miss, it could be the best thing for the future in Houston because you hit that hard reset button. You have Jeremy Pena, you have Bregman, you have these key pieces. Yep. But you have to hit that hard reset with a great farm system to get them restarted and get the Astros back to where they were. I would say my prediction, you hinted at it and you got it. Pirates, Red Sox in the playoffs. Both have two good pitchers they can rely on. Just awaken those lineups. If it's a Red Sox, clean up the defense. But the ground they're making on how poorly the Blue Jays have been playing, there's talks of trading Vlad Guerrero Jr. now coming up. Like, that's a team that seems like it's going to blow it all up. That opens up the avenue. With how much the Yankees have been struggling, the Sox are only 7 games back of the Yankees right now in the loss column. That's huge for them. String it together. They have a great stretch in front of them. I think they can catch them. Tay, I almost called you Travis, man. This is bad, like
I know,
just
right?
muscle memory here.
Muscle memory.
Don't take any offense here. I mean, I was on the banner the other day and I almost said, on Boston has entered. But what we got on Boston's end of the chat, you guys know what it is. We always say, you want to join it? Email us, thechat@nesson.com. Man, we got some great emails coming in. Tay, I'm going to read it. I want you to take this one to start because this is an email meant for you. It's from our boy Michael. Michael writes, I don't think JJ Redick is going to be that good of a coach for the Lakers. No prior experience, and a podcaster's attitude feels like a recipe to crash and burn. He's right. This is me now. Back to Michael. I'm not doubting his basketball expertise, but the lack of experience in managing people and his blunt, I don't give a attitude to the media already feels like this might not be the best job for him. Thoughts? What do you have to say to Michael, Ted?
Look, I think JJ Redick has a good opportunity to be a good coach in the NBA. If there's one thing I can say about the coaches who have had success in Lakerland is they are all crazy. You know what I mean? Pat Riley was a lunatic. We know that because we see it now with him in Miami. He's the godfather. You know what I'm saying? And then you go back to Phil Jackson era. He was also just a very different kind of coach. The Zen master stuff. He was, not really what LA thought they were at the time. So I'm going to say that JJ is probably one of the best candidates for this job because he's weird. You know what I mean? Like, he's not weird, I will say, but he's different from every other candidate. You know what I mean? I think him and Hurley have that effect on people where they're like, they walk into the room and they command the energy. They command your eyes. They command your attention. I don't think the coaches that have coached the Lakers who's been there since LeBron's stint in Lakerland have had that, honestly. Vogel didn't have that. Ham didn't have that. I believe he had Walton before that, or maybe Walton got fired, whatever. You know what I mean? But all of the coaches that he's had there haven't had that. I think this is finally a guy who has the ability to command the attention and the respect of LeBron James. We saw they obviously had the podcast together, so we respected him in that much. But all in all, really, I don't think the coach really matters for the Lakers, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it's LeBron's team. It's the coach. It's the GM. He's going to do what he wants to do, right? So JJ is a great coach, and I think he will be a great coach, and I think he will be the best coach that LeBron's had in a Laker jersey. But at the end of the day, does this make them a contender? No, it doesn't.
Exactly. It doesn't move the needle for me. I'm going to say JJ Redick's going to suck. And it's because he has no prior coaching experience. But when I went on Banner, what did I do? I gave Joe Mazzulla his flowers. And you said it. End of the day, the best thing you could be in an NBA coach is making sure your players buy in and they listen to you. Whatever that is. If you get them to show up because they are the best players in the world, some of these best athletes in the world, that's all that matters. Now, JJ Redick, can he keep his hands out of his pockets and actually draw plays and direct this team, which Darvin Ham couldn't? If he does that, great. I just can't believe it will happen because he's never coached before. And there's that graphic that goes around as a joke of coaching his son's like fourth grade basketball team as an assistant coach. Yeah. With the Sam Cassells out there, it's tough for me to see them come in and get a JJ Redick. And I go, that's the right hire. But you said it. It's not about who's the best coach. It's about who LeBron wants in that building and on that sideline. And it's JJ Redick. And you know what it is, Michael? I'm going back to our lovely emailer here. Thank you for writing this in, Michael. All that matters, end of the day, is what the king does and what he does with that roster. And whatever the hell will happen after they're likely to pick his son.
Facts.
Hey, what do you think about that? It was good? All right, cool. We got a good one, this next one. I like this. This is from Dwayne. Short and sweet. Yeah. Tay, I'll let you open up on this one too because I take this one of two ways. Do you think James Harden's impact to the modern NBA and basketball in general is comparable to Steph Curry's? I don't know how to take this, Tay. Is he talking about him baiting people at the three-point line, drawing fouls, and getting to the free throw line? Or is he talking about the James Harden now with the Clippers, running a pick and roll with Zubac, getting Kawhi and Paul George to their spots and finding them and being a great playmaker? What do you think on this one? Do you think James Harden's impact to the modern NBA and basketball in general is comparable to Steph Curry's?
One word. No.
Yeah, I agree there.
That's just the honest truth. And I think he's alluding to the James Harden that we saw in Houston. And I'm going to roll with my answer based on that. Look, James Harden in Houston was great, right? But we understand that that style of basketball does not get it done. LeBron had to play more team ball to get a championship. Luka's going to have to play more team ball, as we've seen, in order to get a championship. And James Harden is now, as you alluded to, running the pick and roll and doing more team ball type of activities in order to try to win his first championship. Steph Curry effect is real. And I don't just want to go to the shooting, because the shooting is obvious. But it's really not just a Steph Curry effect. It's really a him and Steve Kerr, and goes back to Steve Kerr playing for Popovich effect, in the NBA. It's really the pace and space that we saw the Boston Celtics win an NBA championship with this year in 2024. It's the spacing and the passing and the cutting that we saw the Denver Nuggets win an NBA championship in 2023. That's what Steph Curry and Steve Kerr together have really affected the game and shown for the rest of the future. That's what we got, and it's going to continue to be that way for at least another decade, I would expect.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I completely agree with you. I say absolutely no. There's no one comparable to their effect on the game to Steph Curry's right now. And it goes beyond just his shooting, but it is changing the style of play. Now what we're going to see over the next few years, Steph Curry and Steve Kerr established it. What have the Boston Celtics done to win that ring? We're going to shoot 42 threes a game, and we don't care how many we miss, because if we make 15 or 16 or more, the math is the math, and that's what gets us to win. We're going to shoot threes. We're going to pass up those okay shots or those good shots for okay shots from three. Yeah, Steph Curry and them did it as well. James Harden's effect on basketball doesn't come close. And what we've seen, though, and I give him credit to, is changing his game from being that hero ball guy, from doing it all and doing the scoring, but also getting 10 assists a game, to shooting less, becoming more efficient. But also, that's what James Harden wants to be. He doesn't want the ball in his hands in the big moments. I saw him game 7 against the Celtics when he was in Philly. Within 5 possessions into the game, you knew he didn't want to be in TD Garden, and James Harden became Jimmy Harden. So I have no respect for James Harden in that sense, but credit to him to be with the Clippers and knowing what he is and knowing who Kawhi and PG are. But until Kawhi is healthy, I don't see much changing. All right, Final one, Tay.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the biggest name that will be traded this NBA offseason? This is coming from Junior.
I'll be quick with this one. I think it's going to be Paul George, and only because I think he's going to end up being signed and then traded to the Warriors. I think Wiggins is probably going to end up in a Clippers jersey. If not that, then it's going to be DeMar DeRozan. No more to say about that. Chicago Bulls are in a rebuild. He's their biggest star. They're probably going to get rid of him. Simple.
Paul George gets traded out. Maybe DeMar goes home to LA Clippers. I'm going Trae Young on this one. They got to split up that backcourt. Everything that's happened, even before, it goes back to his past regime with Nate McMillan as a head coach. We know how they butted heads. This is a kid that needs to figure it out. We talked about James Harden figuring it out. Trae Young is so talented. I thought he wouldn't work in the pros. I didn't think his game would translate and actually have an effect on the court like what he did at OU, but he's done it. But as a prolific scorer, you need to be a good teammate. You just said it. Luka can't win it. He got that team to that spot, and then you ran into what an actual team is. We've seen for the past champs as well, Denver, Golden State, keep going back, what actual teams are able to accomplish to win these rings. I think Trae Young needs to leave Atlanta. He needs to go where there's a solid number 2, but not in the same backcourt as them. Maybe it's San Antonio, him and Wemby with Stephon Castle. Treat Stephon Castle, teach him how to shoot. But I think we need to see Trae Young move his spot and leave from there. So I would go Trae Young, I think, gets traded. Also, I don't care what the owner says. Kevin Durant, if he got traded from the Suns because he pushed his way out, I wouldn't be surprised, Tay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with that either. I think KD does want to be in Phoenix, though. I've heard him in interviews, and it sounds like he really likes the direction that they're going in, but I wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right, so we'll shift from the NBA. Let's talk a little bit of hockey here. I mentioned it at the top of the show. Sofia Jurkovic, she caught up with Bruins general manager Don Sweeney. Check it out. We got it right here for you guys.
All right, please be joined by general manager Don Sweeney of the Boston Bruins. Thanks for making time for us, Don. I know you've had a busy week already, and I want to start with the acquisition, the first-round draft pick. You're back in the mix after the first time for a couple of years with the first-round pick. Might be early to tell, and there are several needs for this team. Do you have any priorities as to where those needs are right now?
Well, Sophia, thanks for inviting me on. I guess I should start by congratulating the Celtics for Banner 18. First opportunity I have to be able to do that publicly, so congratulations to them. Very much enjoyed a parade and would love to follow in their footsteps at some point in time here, and hopefully this upcoming season. In reference to getting back into the first round, obviously our scouts are incredibly excited. They've worked all year to hope that we would do something to allow them to get back and have a selection there. So, we've got some areas that we would like to try and address with a particular player, but we're always trying to look for the best player we can draft that fits, into what we try and accomplish, regardless of position. And we're excited. There's several kids that we believe will be in that around that 25th pick, unless something presents that we don't feel comfortable. We want to change, either moving up or down.
In terms of need and when you're where you're deciding where the priority is it a dangerous game to play kind of projection as to where you expect or where you hope some of your current players will be? Say with the Providence Bruins, maybe you're expecting someone to have a bigger year comes up, or with the current Bruins. Is that a dangerous game to play, or do you factor that in when it comes to drafting?
If you have players that have taken a big jump, Matty Poitras, obviously we hope he comes back and he's healthy next year and challenges to be back on our team. So we got a pleasant surprise last year where we felt that he had made a significant jump. Does it change your approach? Not really. We still try and find the best player that we can, where we're drafting. Obviously, you might have areas that you feel your organization needs to address from a depth perspective, but I don't think we go in there with a target specific. We have to take a positional player at any point in time. We just like to evaluate the players that are available and ultimately make the best decision possible.
Obviously, one of the narratives for the last few seasons, Boston Bruins, lucky but not just lucky. They obviously traded well, drafted well, and Coach Bob Essenza developed some great goaltending. One of them was part of the trade to the Ottawa Senators, of course, Linus Ullmark, such an asset, many teams looking for a goaltender. With him being such a hot commodity, are you satisfied with what you got in return?
Well, again, it's always about what the market will bear, and there were a lot of goalies that were sort of being talked about within the marketplace. Ultimately, we made a decision as to what's best for us as an organization. Wishing, Linus, thanking him first and foremost for he and Mo and their families' contributions to Boston, both on and off the ice. As I referenced before, he's as the winning goalie, but he's an all-star on and off the ice as a person. So, we wish him well, except maybe when we're playing against him, which is the competitive nature in all of us. But again, the market, you never know what other teams may be doing. They may be just exploring, they may be just testing, dipping their toe in. There were several goalies that were discussed around the league, and at this point in time, only 2 or 3 of them have actually changed teams for different reasons. And we're excited about Mark and Yona coming to our hockey club, and as you referenced earlier, getting back into the first round. So, we made the trade that we felt will continue to add pieces to our hockey club, as well as give us a chance to improve the future of our organization.
Obviously, for the last couple of seasons and dating back to Yaroslav Halak and Tuukka Rask, you kind of had this 1A, 1B situation where you have 2 starters on your team. With Joonas Korpisalo, obviously you have to see how it plays out. But is that the direction you want your team to go to starters? Or given, his salary, given what you get out of him, are you okay with him being just a solid backup and Jeremy Swayman being the sure number 1?
Well, again, both Linus and Jeremy at the end of the year were advocating to up their ante of game starts, and that's a hard exercise when both guys have been very, very good in trying to share the net and balance that out. And, Jeremy had a really strong playoff. In Yona's case, I think it's important to have competitive goaltending. Internal competition, generally drives people forward, and I think this will be a continued exercise in that. We've had that benefit of the relationship with Linus and Sway, and previously with Tuukka and Yarrow, and Brandon Bussey's part of this equation. He wants his opportunity as well. So I think training camp will be a really competitive competitive environment to allow the natural process of who takes the net. We're excited that Jeremy has taken the steps that he has. We're going to get a contract done at some point in time with he and his camp, and move forward. As I said, trying to have the most competitive goaltending. It's really difficult for a goalie to start the year and turn around and say you're going to play 60, 65 games. It's really hard. So we'll earmark a number and see how both goalies are playing. And again, lean on the internal competition to see who sorts it out. But you have to have balanced goaltending each and every night in the league. It's too hard. It's too hard to get into the playoffs if you don't. And I think our team, the structure we have, the commitment to defending, I think will allow Jonas to come in and get to the level that we feel he's capable of getting to. We saw a good glimpse of that in LA when he went. Bob's done a lot of work to study Jonas, to do background work on him and how he's going to come in and complement Jeremy and or where Brandon pushes this whole group.
Awesome. Thank you for that detailed answer. This one, I'm not sure if it's going to be as detailed because I know negotiations are usually pretty private, but can you give me any information as to where that is with Jeremy Swayman? Have you guys started the process?
We are in the process and hopeful that at some point in time we will find the common ground that we both would like to have.
Awesome. And a couple of check-ins with the team. You mentioned Matt Poitras obviously made those strides, had that injury. You guys decided as a team it was best for him to have the surgery and recovery this offseason. Do you have an update on his status and if he's trending in the right direction for training camp and the preseason?
Yeah, Maddie's done very well with surgery. A really good surgical is followed up by a really good rehab, and that's exactly how it's gone so far. He's actually going to make an appearance at Dev Camp just to sort of make sure the checks and balances and where he is. We expect him fully up to 100% at training camp and moving forward with no restrictions whatsoever.
Awesome. And I think a couple more, maybe this is the last one, depending on your answer, but Mason Lohrei obviously making big strides as well. Left shot defenseman, but I know we've talked about this. You've talked about it several times, especially come the playoffs. You need that depth on the blue line. Is that one of the priorities for you come July 1st, come maybe this draft? Is that something you're looking at adding more of?
Well, certainly in July we'll have an eye towards addressing probably the depth if we can improve our group and strengthen our group, continue to. Mason's a big part of that moving forward and his development at hopefully a natural course. We saw a great uptick during the course of this season. Getting thrown into the playoffs with high leverage stakes and being able to handle those situations. I just think he's got a lot of upside for us. The offensive part, the skill of the blue line. Get him into the power play situations now where he has more command of running a unit. Continue to grow his game. Excited for Jay, a new addition to our staff, to work with him and the rest of our group. We're going to look to strengthen that position a little bit and add to the depth, as we all know, is so paramount as you get through the season. And with luck of playing the way we're capable of playing, we get into the playoffs and take another one.
And I forgot, I teased you, I'm sorry. I can't forget the top six center position as well. Obviously, you got a lot out of Charlie Coyle. We saw huge strides, Pavel Zacha as well. Satisfied with those two, or are you in the market to add down the middle as well?
Well, you never know how the market's going to play out. Obviously, we addressed and with our group here that we've identified a couple of players that if they do become available and fortunate enough to sign, that we'd like to. It's not indictment on any of the players you discussed, be it Pav or Charlie or Maddie or Geeks or guys that played the middle. It's just a position that those guys did a really good job. They had good years for us, but it tests you in the course of the season. Strength up the middle is something that is paramount in pretty much all professional sports, and we feel very comfortable that if we can add to that group, then our players and our team will benefit from it. So that's what our intention is. But again, the market will bear what we're able to do.
Awesome. Don, I know this is one of the busiest times of the year for you, so thank you for the one-on-one with Nesson. Good luck, and can't wait to see the pieces that are added to the Boston Bruins.
Great job by Sophia there. Thanks for sending that our way. Of course, you could catch Sophia Jurkovic on Respect Her Game, Extra Time, wherever you get your Nesson podcast. Tell you, what I love hearing from Don Sweeney, there wasn't any, we're comfortable with our top six. We're good where we are down the middle. We are fine in this spot. Matty Patra is coming along, but he wants to keep adding because they moved Linus Ullmark. They're around $24 million in cap space. They can get serious players and serious contributors to build on this core, build around Jeremy Swayman. And also, he said, we're still talking with Jeremy Swayman. There's still progress being made anywhere. They are not settling at all. That's what I get out of that interview.
Yeah, I love that they're not settling, but I do want to say this. I missed the goalie hug already, man. Thank you, Linus, for all the contributions you gave to this great city of Boston, man. That's all I have to say about the situation. Thank you, Linus.
Look, I love the goalie hug. If you want it to last that long, if you're Linus and Sway, you take pay cuts. If not, you both want to get the bag. I'm sorry, brother. Business before love. That's how it goes. All right, so we just saw the Panthers, who eliminated the Bruins, get their first Stanley Cup title in team history. When you think across the four major pro sports leagues in America, what do you think? Who will you think will be the next team that gets their first ring?
Yeah, so I have a couple to list off, but I'm going to name one to start and see what you have to say. This is the team that's at the top of my list, and it's going back to the NBA, of course. I got to shout out the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that they're really, really close to getting there. They were close this year. They were one round away from facing off with the Celtics, and I don't think they would have beat them this year, but I think this group just needs another year together, and adding Rob Dillingham in the NBA draft was a huge plug for them as well. They needed another scorer, a guy who comes in with a lot of energy. I think Rob can help them out next year and probably play 15 to 20 minutes for them off the bench and be a huge piece that can help them possibly get over the hump. What about you, George?
I love that. Added Terrence Shannon Jr. too. I was looking at what NBA teams are closest out of the ones that haven't won. Mm-hmm. To me, it's the Clippers and the T-Wolves, but I'm with you. If you gave me an NBA team to get there first, it's Minnesota because they have their superstar. They have their guy. Ant lost his legs by the time he got to his end of the playoffs, just was run into the ground. He'll come back. He'll figure out what it takes physically to do it. I went NFL on this one, and you said it. You're picking Minnesota because at the end of the day, they have Anthony Edwards. I'm picking the Cincinnati Bengals because end of the day, they have Joe Burrow, who's a top 3 quarterback. They have the most important position, taken care of, paid, everything, signed, sealed, delivered. They're anteing up and adding up to that offensive line. They have an elite receiver in Jamar Chase. That defense, they keep adding the pieces there, especially on the back end. You know, Geno Stone, can he figure out and what they lost is safety last offseason and make it and fix it? We'll see. But if you give me a team in the NFL, it's the Bengals. If not the Bengals, to me, it would have to be the Detroit Lions. They're so close. They add to the defense in the draft. So I went NFL on this one, but the two teams I give, literally the Lions, if they decided to kick a couple field goals, maybe they get to the Super Bowl, all bets are off. I don't know if they could beat Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if anyone can. But to me, it's either the Bengals, who are in the AFC, or the Lions, who are in the NFC. Imagine that Super Bowl. Yeah. Two good quarterbacks. One is great. Two fan bases starving for an actual Lombardi. That'd be a good Super Bowl matchup, man.
Yeah, it would. And I have the Bengals as my second team a lot of the same reasons that you said, but also because the Chiefs look distracted this offseason, and the Bills, another team that they were obviously touted against often, just are getting worse. With Stephon Diggs leaving, obviously, to go to Houston, that team's worse. And also, I think Justin Jefferson might have a little Mikal Bridges type of situation where he nudges them and he makes a little Nova Knicks. It's going to be the LSU Bengals, so I think that's possible. One other team that I wanted to shout out really quickly, since we didn't talk about baseball, is the Mariners. I think the Mariners have the best chance in baseball to be the team because they're a team that is good enough to play and win games in the playoffs, but not good enough to be a contender. And in recent years, we've seen with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, you just got to be good enough to be there, but not be the best.
Just get in baseball. An 84, 86 win Diamondbacks team, almost winning a Super Bowl. Bro, just as we opened up this show, and we've done it, talking about the Celtics title, thank God we're not in Cincinnati or Minnesota or Buffalo or Detroit or Cleveland. Thank God Thank God we're in Boston. That's what we
Yes.
have to remind ourselves as we're talking about all these teams. Hey, I'm
Yes.
George Blecci. He's Ante Campbell holding it down in the PNC studios back in Watertown. Tell you, always great chatting with you, bro. This was Boston's Entered the Chat. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Amazon Prime, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you watch. Like and follow as well. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.